Hey everybody, this is something a little new. I don't have my drum machine plugged up. There you go. There's the theme song. Everybody's dancing. Yeah, this is just an impromptu kind of discussion. This is a reaction video because the Golden Globes released their nominations today. The 78th annual Golden Globe Awards from the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. Not a sponsor. I have a feel like we're going to be saying not a sponsor a lot for some of these things, but whatever. Joining me today, we have Jeff and we have Taylor. Jeff, how you doing today?
Doing good. How are you doing, Chris?
Oh, I'm great, man. I mean, I vaguely remember when I was waking up in bed, I was like, "Are the Golden Globes today? I think they are." And then I go to my phone, I'm like, "Oh, they're getting announced right now. Sweet." That tells you how early I woke up. But did you get up early for them, Jeff?
I did. I actually was able to watch them before my workday started. That's one of the benefits of the central time zone. Um, was able to not have to miss any work to watch the nominations like I normally have done in the past. So that was real nice. Had a nice breakfast that I made myself. So it's good. It's a good
Excellent. I
day.
was just about to say,
Yep.
when it's Oscar nomination morning, Jeff and I would every so often have our little second Christmas of the year,
Right.
and oh, there's Diva. There's your cat.
Yep. She
Oh,
popped in.
yep. She might pop in every so often.
Right.
Happy to hear that you got a good breakfast with it. That's
Yep.
good.
Yep. We may have to do a an Oscar nominations Zoom this year.
That could be
That'd be
fun. Yeah,
fun.
absolutely. I might have to. I'll definitely have to request the day off. Taylor, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I was kind of like you. I did not know when the nominations were coming out, and then last night I saw something being like they're tomorrow, and I was like, oh, okay, things are happening again.
Right. Yeah, and there were quite a few surprises with this laundry list of nominations, and we might also bring up a few of the things that have happened before today in the Golden Globe nominations. The Gotham Awards, which have been featured on our trivia show, they've already had their nominations and their awards. Um, we've had the American Film Institute list their favorites for the year 2020. And we've had the National Board of Review list their favorites, and that's usually the starting point for a lot of the awards buzz, isn't it, Jeff?
It is, yeah. And I've actually been keeping track of what films each of those respective organizations have honored. And interestingly enough, the only film so far that has gotten from all three is Nomadland. It's been recognized by all three. Minari was recognized in the foreign language category for the Golden Globe. So the only one to have best film according to three different organizations is Nomadland. So I guess that would put them as the front runner at this point.
Yeah, and speaking of Nomadland, another awards nominations that I I kind of glossed over at the intro here was the Independent Spirit Awards, the Film Independent Spirit Awards, I guess is the full name. And Nomadland picked up a nomination for Best Feature there. Um, and the Gotham Awards, if I'm not mistaken, Nomadland won Best Feature, the Gotham Awards, but not Best Actress, if I recall.
I don't recall that. Yeah, the Gotham I haven't included in the past, but maybe starting with next season, I'll add it to my kind of a precursor award list.
For sure. Taylor, what did you think about all those earlier awards, AFI and the Spirit Awards and such?
Well, the only one I happened to see was the AFI, and I think it's really interesting how it seems like a lot of like the I feel like AFI definitely tried to cast a wider net and try and think of like more things than just that happen maybe outside of like the traditional award season, even though they are supposed to be meant to honor things throughout the entire year. But it's really interesting that they put, like, for instance, like they put To Five Bloods on their list of top 10. They omitted Promising Young Woman, which has been getting a lot of love recently.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like you look at something like the Globes, and like To Five Bloods was shut out completely, but there was a lot of love for like Promising Young Woman, and I believe Sound of Metal got a lot of love at the Globes, but there's definitely been some crossover
Yeah,
between a lot of them. But yeah, the AFI is the only one that I've looked at.
yeah, it's definitely a lot of talk right now. The biggest snub it seems is The Five Bloods, which was completely looked over by the Golden Globes. That includes Best Direction, Spike Lee, Best Actor, Delroy Lindo, which is a huge following for him to get a nomination and just sneak in there. He seemed like a lock a lot earlier in the year.
Mhm.
I'll go ahead and start by showing these
Well, to
flashcards
go
that
back to
are
Spike Lee just for a second,
yeah.
the Globe ambassadors this year are actually Spike Lee's children. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know if the foreign press might have thought beforehand that Spike Lee would have had a big following at this particular ceremony, with his children being the Golden Globe ambassadors. You know, the ambassadors are children of Hollywood stars. So it's very interesting if you think about that maybe they were planning for Da Five Bloods to make an appearance, and then they just did not.
Yeah, especially with like the AFIs, with that being included on their list, I thought maybe To Five Bloods is going to have a resurgence and be kind of back on an upward swing. But I don't know if
And
that's
didn't the National Board of Review name Da Five Bloods as its pick for Film of the Year?
Yeah, and Best Direction.
Yeah, even more
Yeah,
surprising.
so
and it
that
also
makes it so much of a shock. Yeah.
yeah, and it also, just to add on to what you said before, what it was expected to get, Chadwick Boseman did get a posthumous nomination for Ma Rainey, but he was predicted by many to be on supporting actor for To Five Bloods as well, and he was even shut out of that category, which is strange.
Yeah. Now before we list any more of who the Golden Globe nominated crew is, I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of break it down through categories. I'm gonna try my best not to do any kind of editing with this video. Keep it a nice live discussion, and if the flow's great, whatever. If not, sorry about you, audience. We love you though. But we'll start with Best Motion Picture Drama. I'll go ahead and throw that up there so people know exactly what we're talking about. So the nominees, those five films are The Father, Mank, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, and The Trial of the Chicago Seven. I have only seen two of these films, both of which are on Netflix, not a sponsor. Um, that would be Mank and The Trial of the Chicago Seven. I am a little surprised that Mank uh, actually turned out to be the film with the most nominations today. I had a strong feeling The Trial of the Chicago Seven would be picked up. It's got an all star cast, and people love their Aaron Sorkin. And the themes are very relevant for this year. I feel like so it was kind of a no brainer in my opinion that it'd be nominated. But Mank was kind of skating the line. It seemed like Gary Oldman, the star, would be getting some stuff, and David Fincher, the director. But the film itself, it was kind of a big question mark. Partially maybe because it's a black and white film. I don't know. How do you all feel about that?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that Mank had the most nominations. Those five films account for 23 of the nominations. So they definitely showed a lot of love for those five films. I have seen the two that you mentioned, as well as Promising Young Woman, and we'll probably be seeing Nomadland this weekend. So I think overall a very strong group of nominees. I think they all have a really good shot at being nominated for Best Picture. Um, I will say it is a little bit of a surprise for Mank. I think just like you said, it's a little bit more of a niche movie. Very much if you're familiar with Citizen Kane, they really did an homage to that film. So it's kind of a specific vision, and the fact that
There
it
it
was
is.
honored,
There it is in my collection right there.
the
There you
fact that
go.
it was honored so much is quite interesting.
Yeah. Taylor, what are your thoughts on Mank and its strong showing?
Mank is actually one of the ones that I haven't seen. I've seen Promising Young Woman and Trial of Chicago 7. But everything that I've heard about Mank is it seems like it's a very divisive movie. it's just like based on its like Rotten Tomatoes scores, it is, like I said, very divisive. So the fact that they threw it so much love is really interesting, and I have to wonder, obviously you could look at it as the front runner because of the number of nominations, but there have been like occurrences throughout history where a film gets a ton of nominations and wins nothing. So you have
Right.
to wonder, is it really everyone's, like, for lack of a better term, like number one pick, or, is that just like the third or fourth one on their list of favorites?
I think that's kind of indicative of the Golden Globes. Like I think they if they feel strongly about a film, they almost champion it. And I think that's what's happened this season with the with Mank. And you have to realize the Hollywood Foreign Press, is an organization of only like 150 members.
Right.
So if one gets a strong showing from just a portion of the votership, it can make a big impact on nominations. I think that's what we've seen with these five films. I think they have found a spot with the HFPA where they're very much being championed by that group.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there is something to be said about during awards season. You look at some of the past Best Picture winners of the Oscars in particular, films like The Artist and Argo. Uh, there is something to be said about a film that takes place in Hollywood or has something to do with movie making and is essentially a bit of a love letter to the process and to sometimes certain people, and that is the case with Mank, about Mankiewicz, Joseph L. Mankiewicz, and his brother, um, and the creation of Citizen Kane, which many regard as the best film of all time. It's widely considered anyway. Um, I know Mank also has going for it. Gary Oldman's character is battling alcoholism for quite a bit of the movie, and the best actor race in particular. You've seen a history of characters like that: Robert Duvall in Tender Mercies, and Nicolas Cage in Leaving Las Vegas, just to name a few. But as far as some of the other nominations for Best Picture, The Father was interesting to me. I know Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman have been gaining accolades in the acting categories, but as far as being a Best Picture contender, that's saying something for this little movie. I watched the trailer again today, and it looks like Hopkins knocks it out of the park. Uh, I guess the film itself is going to be quite beautiful too. What are your thoughts about that movie coming out?
I think one thing that helps The Father with the Hollywood Foreign Press is that it has a foreign-born director in Florian Zeller, which surprisingly did not get nominated. Again, spoilers for later categories, but I think that it has very much built on the strong buzz of Hopkins and Coleman. I think that, like you said, that's one of the main selling points of the movie. That's what a lot of people have heard. So it is very interesting to see it show up on the short list for drama.
Mm-hmm. And a part of me is not really surprised because you've got Olivia Colman, who has been, speaking of like upward swings, the past few years, she's just been knocking it out of the park. She's really having a great resurgence in her career. But if you look at context for the movie in general, it's based on a stage play. And when the show played, I believe it played at Manhattan Theater Club in New York City, that role that Anthony Hopkins plays was originated by Frank Langella,
Oh
who
wow.
actually did win a Tony Award for playing that part. And now, of course, it's been adapted to the screen. So there is a history of like prestige with that role, even though it's relatively a new story.
See, I just now learned that. I had no idea it was based on a play. I just assumed it was an independent film. That's why we got our Broadway honchos here too. Yeah, because you all are very knowledgeable about these kind of things. So both of you have seen Promising Young Woman. I have not. What were your impressions on that film?
I think Promising Young Woman is another one that Taylor mentioned, Mank being divisive. I think Promising Young Woman has been divisive as well. It doesn't pull any punches. is almost unapologetic in its message. And it's a very refreshing message. I think that Carey Mulligan, for me, this is a career best for her. Like the character she creates with such complexity and empathy is just it's a masterclass. Honestly, it's like it had me from the very beginning scenes to the very end. I think it's a very well written script. I think it's a great story, and not only Carey Mulligan, but the entire supporting cast is just phenomenal in Promising Young Woman. So I'm very glad that it garnered so many nominations today.
Yeah, it was it's almost like I just to be clear, I did love Promising Young Woman, and it's almost like I was predisposed to. I had been looking forward to it for a really long time. Speaking of like something like Nomadland, excuse me, has been, talked about for a while as being something to look at. And I remember way back before the pandemic began, Promising Young Woman was supposed to come out in April. It got pushed, and I remember really looking forward to it, but nobody had really been talking about it. And then, suddenly it's an awards contender. So it's really interesting to see that big push and how it was almost like so suddenly embraced. But just to echo what Jeff said, Carey Mulligan is absolutely phenomenal in it. She carries that movie on her shoulders, and she does it expertly. And also, like Jeff said, the entire cast is just full of standouts. You've got a movie with, Alfred Molina, Jennifer Coolidge, Molly Shannon, Bo Burnham,
Oh yeah.
Allison Brie, Max
wow.
Max Greenfield,
Mm-hmm.
like just all this, like, just this roster of, people who always knock it out of the park. It's not surprising that, when you pair that with a really like unique and interesting story and just really like a really specifically defined like direction, that like it was just so much fun to watch. And there are twists around every corner. And one of the things that makes it so divisive, and I won't spoil anything here, but a lot of people either really, really love or really, really hate the third act.
Okay, that's interesting. So it could kind of be a split decision there. I saw the writer director Emerald. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name.
Emerald
Fennell.
Fennell, yeah.
Fennell, thank you. Emerald Fennell tweeted, "Oh my God," with like 7 Ds, learning of her nomination. So that's pretty cool that she's excited about that. I'm gonna kind of just chug away here. We'll talk a little bit more about the other two films, Nomadland and The Trial of the Chicago 7, throughout the other nominations. No disrespect to them, of course, but we'll go ahead and get to the Best Motion Picture Comedy and Musical. I'll show everybody here. We're talking about Borat's subsequent movie film. We're talking about Hamilton. We're talking about music. We're talking about Palm Springs. And we're talking about The Prom. Now, let's go right ahead and start talking about this Hamilton nomination. Jeff, you learned a little bit of information after some digging today, huh?
I did, because a lot of people have been asking, how is Hamilton even, how's it even available? How's it even?
Right, because
what's the word I'm looking for? How is it even
eligible?
Eligible. That's the word.
Yes.
How is it even eligible? Well, they actually took advantage of a very loose definition that the Hollywood Foreign Press has for what a musical is. It's just that that a musical is a film which songs carry a significant weight of the plot. That's what a musical is. So that's what Hamilton is. So that's why it's eligible. Is they took that very loose definition that the Academy has made a very specific definition that you can't just film a performance. So we will not see it again in the Academy nominations, but it is the fact that they fulfill the definition of a musical, and that's why it's there.
Yeah.
And the SAG Awards have it as a TV movie, and it's eligible there. But just a very interesting. It's a very interesting case with Hamilton.
Yeah, and there've been another. There's been another instance of is it TV, is it movie, with Steve McQueen's series of films that he released, Small Acts.
Mm-hmm.
I've even seen one of those films top the best films of the year on one of these lists I'm endlessly reading about. I know for a fact that the Oscars are not going to consider Small Acts, that it's going to be Emmy consideration instead, which I don't even know how Steve McQueen feels about it, but it's been a very interesting thing to follow. And as far as Hamilton goes, Hamilton has another nomination a little later we're going to talk about, but I know Disney Plus was not a sponsor, was responsible for bringing the Hamilton stage adaptation to everybody's screens during the pandemic here, and I know the HFPA were probably pretty okay with including Disney Plus, again, not a sponsor, in one way or another. I'm a little surprised that they didn't go the route of nominating Soul instead of Hamilton. What do you think about that, Jeff?
I think it's very interesting that I'm glad that Soul does show up on this list a couple times, but yeah, I think it's just a very interesting that they have embraced it as a film instead of a TV series. I think it's very interesting to see one voting body consider it one way and another to consider it a different way. I definitely think that Soul is the better film. However, I don't know that Soul would would qualify as a musical. It will probably qualify as a comedy.
Yeah,
It's just interesting how that all
and it
how
should be
everything gets.
noted that I'm sorry to interrupt, but it should
Yeah.
be noted that this very category, one of the past winners at the Golden Globes was a Pixar film. Toy
Mm-hmm,
Story
mm-hmm,
2
mm-hmm.
won in 1999. So that's giving me even more reason to wonder why not Soul instead. But
Right. I think this actually has a history of a few animated, like Beauty and the Beast won this category in 1991.
yeah,
The Lion King won in 94.
yes, I
So
forgot
there's
about that.
definitely, yeah, Toy Story 2, as you mentioned. Yeah, there's definitely, yeah, it's interesting that with the precedent of, animated films winning, that it didn't get consideration in this category.
Right, and Hamilton is an also. I mean, obviously, it's had its time in the sun with the Tony Awards.
Yep, 11 Tonys. Yep.
And so I mean, maybe maybe they just felt we want in on this also a little bit. I mean, for all I know, it is a spectacular show. Please don't get me wrong here. Not to take anything away from Hamilton, it has rightfully earned its place in the pop culture and in in the history books. So, pun kind of intended. Um, but it was just kind of a shock and kind of a weird shock, but I'd say a welcome shock. Um, and that brings
Speaking
me.
of Hamilton's in eligibility, I am hard pressed to see any of these films to be nominated for the Best Picture at the Academy Awards.
Mhm.
Usually, there's one or two nominees from this category that do make it to the Best Picture list, but I'm very hard pressed this year, and it's been a while. It's been like since 2009 since that has happened. So it's very
Yeah,
interesting and very interesting group of nominees in this category.
yeah. Like Borat's subsequent movie film. One particular actor I'd say has been getting the most buzz of that film, and people were talking about that film when it came out
Hmm.
because of certain politicians,
Right?
showing up and lawyers, but um,
Yeah, definitely
it,
another film that doesn't pull any punches. So.
yes, exactly. And the original Borat did have quite a bit of history. Also, Sacha Baron Cohen did win Best Actor for playing Borat in the first film, and he's nominated again. We'll get to that, but the film itself, Borat's subsequent movie film, it's a sequel that I feel like a lot of people were not expecting to do as well as it did, but it chose the absolute correct climate, in my opinion. Hamilton. Going back to Hamilton Taylor, I feel bad.
Oh,
You
you're
kind of had a
good.
little bit of a break while we were talking about the one Broadway show that's nominated. Um, but how do you feel about Hamilton being up for Best Picture?
It's a weird thing that is happening. Um, I don't know. It must be nice to be Lin Manuel Miranda. Hamilton is the gift that keeps giving.
And it could win. It could win. What I
It
mean
could, which is
that
just crazy. Which I
that
mean, I feel like if it did win, they would have to make some kind of rule for future things because these film productions are just going to get more and more common.
yeah, I'm taking advantage of those loopholes, as Jeff said, and um, yeah. So the other films, it's Hamilton's not the only musical nominated. The Prom, which Netflix again, not a sponsor, um, but I have seen that one, and I've seen the Borat film. My impressions of the Prom, it seems like it was a very good Broadway show. The film treatment I've got mixed feelings about, but uh, I had a feeling it would be nominated mainly because the HFPA does try to include musicals if they're going to call their category comedy/musical. And that seemed like the best bet going in. And again, now that they've got Hamilton in the mix, it's who's to say if a musical's going to win? The Prom might not get it this time. Um, but Taylor, I know you love the Prom. Tell me a little bit about how you felt about it getting nominated.
It was definitely expected. Um, it is interesting comparing it to like the Hamilton situation. I feel like it could go one of two ways. Hamilton has been sorry to go back to Hamilton, but you're gonna have to compare the two just naturally. They're the only two musicals um, that are in the category.
Is music going to be a musical?
I don't know. I had never heard of that movie until today.
I watched the trailer for it, and it looks like it's already kind of coated in controversy. But
Mhm.
it was directed by Sia,
Mhm.
the
It was written
musician,
as well.
written and directed by Sia. Yeah, and Kate Hudson, the star of it, unrecognizable. She's got a nearly shaved head the entire film. Um, but it's I don't know. I don't want to judge on the trailer alone on that one. I'm
Mhm.
interested to see what exactly is happening there. Um,
Yeah, it could honestly be sometimes weird things, especially at the Globes, just show up to fill out the category. So who's to say music could be like a very good movie? None of us have seen it. But just the fact that it's just popped up here for the first time or one of the first times and hasn't really gotten any major buzz. I don't know if we'll see anything of it again. But in terms of this category, I feel like it could go one of in regards to like Hamilton and the Prom, I could see them either like embracing Hamilton because, like you said, people love Hamilton. It has a great chance to win. It's critically acclaimed. Um, I don't know if the Prom is necessarily going to win. I feel like it was a front runner at one point. But in terms of like Borat getting just an outpouring of love, um, I don't know. I think Borat has kind of turned into the front runner in that category.
quite
But
possibly.
I do love the Prom. Um, it's definitely not like a perfect movie, but as someone who just loves the show in general and really loves the story, and I think there were some great performances in there and some performances that were maybe not as good as others, which I'm sure we
Hmm.
will get to later. Um, but I think it definitely deserves the nomination, and I would be thrilled if it did win, but I just don't see it happening. I think it's got a lot of people that really champion it and really love it, but I don't think it's as widely loved as Ryan Murphy would have wanted.
Right. Jeff, brighten the mood. Do you think the Prom will win?
I don't think the Prom will win.
Oh, okay.
And I think mainly for the reasons, some of the reasons that Taylor mentioned, like some of the, it's kind of an uneven film treatment. Some of the things you mentioned as well. My money is on Borat in this because it does have the most nominations, and it also just has a very much of a relevance more than the other films. I think the HFPA do sort of look at that when they vote. They look at like what films speak to the time that they are a part of. So I think that has my vote. So
Mhm.
Okay. You know what? I think as of right now, my opinion may change, but my prediction is Hamilton because of what it would do in the record books. People will look back fondly and be like, "Hey, remember when that stage show won the film?"
But also, you
So
gotta wonder if some of these voters are gonna turn their nose up to it, thinking it doesn't belong.
it could be like that, but again, we're talking about this group of 150 people or so, and I mean, it's definitely also not going to be in consideration for the Oscars. Hamilton will not,
Mhm.
and that might also help its chances a little bit. Sometimes there are sympathetic kind of votes with that kind of thing. Um, but who's to say? And then we've got the underdog, Palm Springs. Has anybody here seen Palm Springs?
I have. Have you seen it, Chris? Jeff
I
is
have
shaking
not.
his head no.
no.
Taylor, you're the only one here. Tell us about it.
Oh.
How you felt about it?
I really enjoyed it. Um, I think it's a lot of fun. I don't know if you guys know the premise at all, but
I
basically
saw the
think of,
trailer. There's definitely a bit of like a Groundhog Day kind of element
yeah,
to
I
it. It
was gonna
feels
say
like.
think of like millennial Groundhog Day. Is like
Okay.
the best way to describe it. But I had a lot of fun when I watched it, and it got great reviews. You know, it was a very funny movie. Andy Sandberg and Kristen Milioti. I don't remember how to say her name.
We'll fix it in post.
And of course, like J.K. Simmons shows up in there and gives a great performance like he always does. But I didn't at the time. I didn't really see it anything more than like just a fun movie that Hulu bought and put out during the pandemic. Even though it was enjoyable, I didn't really think it would ever have any award season legs. But here we are.
Yeah,
So,
it's been swimming in the undercurrent quite a bit.
but
I've
yeah,
noticed in the critics' prizes.
it's definitely a fun one to like check out. It's just like, you know, a hangout movie or like Sunday afternoon. It's kind of a mindless watch in a way just because it's so much fun.
Yeah. So let's go to best direction real fast, since we got a lot of categories to go through here. Sorry guys, but we got the best direction nominees up there. You can see we got Fincher for Mank. You got Zhao. Is it pronounced Zhao? I don't want to
Yeah,
butcher that.
It's
Chloe
Jiao.
Zhao.
Zhao.
It's like
Okay.
a Jiao.
Okay. Zhao.
At least that's how they announce it. Sarah Jessica Parker said it that way. So
Okay. There you go. Yes, thank you for watching that and keeping note on that. Nomadland. We have Regina King. We've got One Night in Miami. We have Emerald Fennell, Promising Young Woman, and we have Aaron Sorkin for The Trial of the Chicago Seven. That's three women.
yep, yeah. I was going to say majority women. That's definitely the story out of those nominations. The interesting thing I saw One Night in Miami as a almost a lock for drama. It's gotten such early buzz. I was very surprised to see that it went in direction and not in best drama. But kudos to Regina King. She's done a lot of TV direction, and then to make the leap to the big screen and do it was such a great film as One Night in Miami, which is also based on a stage show adapted for the screen. So
Oh
it's
wow.
kind of a theme of this award season. I think we're going to see a lot of the adaptations doing well.
Yeah, I'm a
Mhm.
little less surprised to hear that one's based on a stage show. I feel like the premise
Hmm.
definitely
It
lends
lends
itself
itself. Yep.
well to a stage production. I have yet to see One Night in Miami. It is very much next on my list to watch. Might even do it once we finish this little chit chat. But Taylor, have you seen that movie yet?
I have not. I'm in the same boat as you. I've been meaning to, and I had heard all the buzz surrounding it, and I don't know if I was just lazy and I never really checked to see when it was coming out, but I was scrolling through Amazon the other day and I saw that it was on there and I was like, "Oh, guess I should probably watch this soon." But
Right.
yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
love Regina King. I think she's awesome. So any praise for anything she does is a-okay in my book.
Yeah, I streamed it and then I saw it was playing here in Nashville and I was very upset because I am one that just loves to see films in the theater. I've seen 4 of the 5. As I mentioned, probably going to see Nomadland this weekend, so I'll be able to make an informed decision about the 5 directors up for Best Director.
So far, who's your favorite of the 4 that you've seen?
Um, they're also very different. It's very interesting. I think the best direction has been Emerald Fennell. Just as Taylor mentioned, it has a very clear vision. Um, I
And a
think,
very clear tone too.
yeah, very clear tone. I think to that degree as well, David Fincher also sets a very specific aesthetic in Mank. So I think from a technical standpoint, excellent direction there. Um, and I think that Regina King. It's interesting. Someone mentioned how nurturing she is as a director, and it's very interesting to have a Black woman bring the story of Black men to the screen, and like how they all felt very safe and very protected that they could explore their craft in the film because she was such a nurturer. I think that's a very interesting thing about her directions you wouldn't normally think of. But I think she's also very much an actor's director because she has been in the industry for so long. I think she just kind of understands being on both sides of the camera, and I think that really showed in One Night in Miami as well.
And is this her directorial debut?
I'm not sure. Like I
I
said, she
want to
has
say it
she
is.
has done a lot of television, but for film, it may be her debut.
I know for a fact that this is Aaron Sorkin's second film. His directorial debut was Molly's Game, which I loved that movie. I mean,
I did too. I did too.
I, I mean, I say what you want about the actual subject of the film, like should we actually care about this person or not? But and I've seen a few critiques about that, but he made an amazing movie. He made me care about this person
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
particular, and I had to give the Trial of the Chicago 7 a second viewing. Also, this time I had my significant others who watch it with me, and there are things you notice on a second viewing. I will say
Hmm.
that. It's another film that he's got a, I mean he's got his own like signature flow basically as with his writing style, and I think he has learned watching other directors use his work a few tricks of the trade, and I think that shows in the Trial of the Chicago 7. I'm ashamed to say that the only directors I've seen on this list are the male ones. I need to step my game up, but yeah, let's go on to the acting categories. Let's make this fun here. We're starting with the best performance, lead actress, drama. So you've got Viola Davis in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Um, we have oh I should have wrote the first names down.
It's Andra Day.
Andra
Hmm.
Day. Thank
Hmm.
you. The United States of versus Billie Holiday. You have was it
Vanessa Kirby, Pieces of a Woman.
Thank you, Vanessa Kirby,
Hmm.
Pieces of a Woman. I'm failing bad here. Frances McDormand, Nomadland, and Carrie Mulligan, Promising Young Woman. Those final two there, I know are the front runners right now, and I would even venture to say Carrie Mulligan is probably the front runner because Frances McDormand has won so recently with Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri in 2017.
Yeah, it's
Um,
interesting. Viola Davis has been a bit of a front runner as well, but not as much love for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom as we would have expected. I think it was only the 2 acting nominations for that film. So that's another kind of interesting thing that came out of today's nominations.
Yeah, and it's another stage adaptation too.
Hmm. Hmm.
I would say that one kind of feels the most of the stage adaptations like a stage show, in my own personal opinion. Like you can easily see what the two big sets were for the play and
Hmm.
such. But
Yeah, let me know when you see One Night in Miami. You may
yeah,
you may change your mind on what one feels the most like a play, but
okay, I may yeah, that is subject to change. Taylor, how do you feel about this acting race?
I have to agree like it was mentioned, Viola Davis was a bit of a front runner earlier on, and then Dorman had been buzzed about for a long time, and then Promising Young Woman happened, and now everyone is just going goo goo over Carey Mulligan, rightfully so.
Mm.
And like you said, in terms of just like the whole award season, and more specifically the Oscars, I know we're talking about the Globes right now, but it's really hard to like win another award just like in general to win a second one, but even like more just kind of incomprehensible one that's like been so close. So even though I'm sure Frances McDormand is amazing in Nomadland because she's always just fantastic and gives it her all, Carey Mulligan is, like Jeff said, giving a career best. It's such a different, quirky, dark, weird movie. So many words to describe it. And she just shines throughout 100% of it. And I think it's hard to see anybody else doing what she did. And so for that reason, I think, you know, so far she's been like the singular performance to pull out of that category.
And
But
as
who
far
knows?
as yeah, as far as the politics go, I mean, it also kind of feels like she's due. McDormand and Davis have been awarded in the past, and Mulligan has been nominated in the past. Springing to mind, An Education. I can't remember if there are any other instances of her being nominated. You all know?
I believe that is her only one. I will say, I'm very glad that Vanessa Kirby is on this list. Yep, just one nomination for The Education for Carey Mulligan. I saw Pieces of a Woman, and it is
Okay, that
a
was my next
very,
question.
yeah, a very gritty, emotional, and real performance. It's one of those kind of small films that is propelled forward by strong performances. Surprised Ellen Burstyn's not in the conversation. She's gotten some supporting actress buzz playing Vanessa Kirby's mother in the
Mm.
film. It's just a really well acted film, and she's the star of the film, and like Taylor said with Promising Young Woman, really carries the film. Like it's the whole thing is on her shoulders, Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman, and she's very much up to the task. So I'm very glad to see that she is in the discussion. I don't think she's a front runner. I think she's one that has been mentioned and is kind of as expected nominee, but I don't think she'll clinch the win.
If,
But I
if
think
if she does, it'll be very stealthy, I guess.
right, it'll be very very surprising, I think. But and moving on to Andra Day, she's joining the club of acting and songwriting. She's nominated. I'm going to spoil a little bit since we've mentioned her. She is up for Best Actress and for Best Song. So she joins Lady Gaga and
Mm.
um,
Mary J.
Cynthia Erivo
Blige.
and Mary
Mary
J.
J. Blige.
Blige.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So
That's awesome.
another great example of the Globes, awarding musicians for their performances and for their writing, their
Oh, that's
songwriting.
really cool.
Hmm.
That's awesome. Let's go on to best performance by lead actress in a comedy or musical. I'll go ahead and show you. So this, oh my gosh, Bakalova for Borat subsequent movie film jumped up to the lead actress category. She's been in the talks for supporting actress for a lot of the critics' prizes and such. We also, yeah, sorry, I'm reading these backwards. Thank you, Zoom, not a sponsor, kind of. Kate Hudson for Zoom, or for Zoom. Kate Hudson for Zoom, everybody.
That's a
Kate,
different movie.
yeah, she was very quick. You had to watch intently. Blink and you miss it. Kate Hudson for music, of course. Michelle Pfeiffer for French Exit. Rosamund Pike for I Care a Lot, and Anya Taylor Joy for Emma. Three of these films, I had to look up the trailers today, and I Care a Lot looks like a pretty interesting film. Have you all seen the trailer for that?
I haven't actually read an article yesterday about how I Care a Lot could could creep in and be a dark horse and a sleeper. And we see kind of the first showings of that. To talk about, I think the big story with this category is Maria Bakalova being in the lead category. It's kind of a Kate Winslet and the Reader scenario. They don't know exactly where to, like Kate won the Golden Globe and the SAG Award for supporting for the Reader, and then she won, for lead at the Oscars. So it's very much like there's some performances they're very tough to pin down which particular place they go. Kind of like last year with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like it was very difficult, and you could make a case for either Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio being in either category. So it's very interesting. And I think there's less kind of campaigning by category for the Globes than there are the Academy Awards. So I think it's very interesting that
Yeah.
she has shown up in the lead category here.
I think you could definitely make a case that Bakalova kind of. I would say there are times I feel like she's carrying the movie more than Sacha Baron Cohen is.
Mm-hmm.
She's quite the revelation, and sometimes in more ways than one in that film. Um, how do you feel about it, Taylor? How do you feel about her jumping up there?
To be honest, I haven't seen Borat subsequent movie film or the first Borat, but one of like the main things that I've heard about the sequel is just what an impression she made. And I don't know, this is a weird set of categories for me because I have not seen any of these movies. And I feel like the biggest surprise for me was Anya Taylor-Joy for Emma. I feel like that came out of nowhere, but I feel like she's really struck gold with Queen's Gambit recently, which she was also nominated for. So I don't know, it was interesting to see her get that additional nomination. And I think all of us can agree that the biggest snub for the category that was very expected was Meryl Streep, because
Oh,
before the nominations were announced, she was kind of looked at as like the front runner for this award. So for her to just not even be in the running at all anymore is just kind of mind blowing. But yeah, it's an interesting category that definitely
yeah.
threw me for a loop.
And the Globes have definitely shown love to Meryl Streep in the past, over and over and over
Yep,
again.
she
And
has the record for
yeah,
most Globe nominations.
and doesn't she also have the Cecil B. DeMille Award?
Yes, she
Yeah.
is. This is
So
Peter Mill. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure she's just devastated about not getting nominated for the prom.
She's
Love you, Meryl.
retired. She's retired now just because of it.
Jeez, breaking news here on the discussion.
It's not real news. That is not real news. Meryl Streep is not retired. I shouldn't have even made that joke. We don't joke about that.
Oh, okay. If you say so. But back to Anya Taylor-Joy. I mean, one thing you could say about Emma, there are probably a few people that have actually seen that movie in the theater. It was such an early release in 2020. It was pretty much. Did it get to theaters? I remember that
It
was
did.
one of the. Okay, I thought it did. I remember it being one of the films that was one of the first to go to Amazon Prime. You could like pay $20 or whatever, and not a
Yeah.
sponsor. Amazon Prime, not a sponsor. But I remember that and The Invisible Man and Onward, a handful of other films doing that right
The
around the same
Hunt,
time. The
Mm-hmm.
Hunt, yes.
which is a great movie, really enjoyable.
Right. Is it Betty Gilpin, right? Is
Yes,
that the
Betty
one I'm thinking
Gilpin.
of? Yeah.
Yes, she's
Oh
so
man.
good. But that's a conversation for another time because The Hunt is not nominated for anything.
I'm pretty happy to see Michelle Pfeiffer back in the talks here. She's always been working this entire time, and as a kid I had actually had a folder with Catwoman on it. Um, yeah, she's been a favorite of mine, low key, for quite some time. I would like to see French Exit after watching the trailer today. That also has Lucas Hedges in it.
Oh,
It
interesting.
it looks pretty delightful in kind of the same. It kind of looks like in the same vein as the mother from Arrested Development a little bit. I don't know. I'm interested to see what it's all about. Let's go on to best performance lead actor drama. So no surprise on that first one. This guy has been racking them up. Riz Ahmed, Sound of Metal, which I finally got a chance to see that film, and we'll talk about that here. Chadwick Boseman, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Anthony Hopkins in The Father, Gary Oldman in Mank, and it's Tahar Rahim? Tahar Rahim for the Mauritanian.
The
Mauritanian.
Mauritanian.
Reading
Yes.
that word backwards sucks. I
Yeah,
mean,
that was a huge surprise with the love for the Mauritanian. It's kind of flown under the radar, so it'll be interesting to see if it makes any more because
yeah,
it had the two acting nominations, so we kind of see how that will impact future
yeah.
races.
I saw the trailer for that recently. It's got Benedict Cumberbatch and someone we'll be bringing up later, Jodie Foster, and oh my gosh, it looks intense. I'll tell you that much. Um, I have seen three of these nominees, and Riz Ahmed is such a gentleman in real life. It seems like I've seen so many really good interviews with him, and Sound of Metal. It's a bit of a slow burn, but it's a very interesting film. Have you all seen it?
I think I've seen the same three that you have. I have not seen the Father or the Mauritanian as of yet. Yeah, Sound of Metal. Yeah, I definitely can see why he's getting the attention that he is for this film. Um, it's another one of those kind of gritty, you know, ensemble pieces where like the lead and the supporting cast is all very strong.
It's a very natural kind of a
Hmm.
performance.
Hmm.
Like
It almost feels documentary at times, like how real it is.
yeah, and his character is his work with the character. He has such a drive and the focus of
Hmm.
like he's so intent on how he thinks he can fix this problem, and it's you're following him, and whether he's making a wrong decision or not,
Hmm.
you kind of want to see where this goes. He's a driving force, and I mean Chadwick Boseman. Oh, what it's so awful. We've lost this guy. He like, and what a performance he's leaving us with on Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Hmm.
I was pretty pleased with that as well. Taylor, have you seen any of these films? Do you have any thoughts?
Can you hold up the list one more time?
Sure, absolutely. So there'd be Sound of Metal and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and Mank and The Father. You probably haven't seen The Father or the
Yeah,
Mauritanian yet.
this is another category where I haven't seen any of the nominees, but in terms of like buzz that I've heard, um, I think it's gonna be Chadwick Boseman. Um, I've just heard such great love for his performance and so much love for him, and his passing was tragic. And I definitely think that like his community, that being like actors and fellow actors, co-stars, just Hollywood in general, they're gonna want to honor him, you know, because it's the last chance they're gonna have to do it, which, like you said, is just tragic and sad. And in terms of Sound of Metal, that's another one very much like One Night in Miami, where I guess I was kind of lazy and complacent, and again saw it popped up on Amazon, and I was like, I can watch this now.
Yeah, but yeah, and I mean, Riz Ahmed did win the Gotham Award for Best Actor. It should be said. He was also picked by the National Board of Review. I believe he is the front runner going in, but a nomination for Chadwick Boseman in the Oscars also seems very likely. I would say. Um, I mean, for all I know, this could be the exact five that the Oscars pick for Best Actor. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they picked Gary Oldman for Mank. Uh,
I don't think Tahar Rahim will make the Oscars. I think Delroy Lindo will take his place.
yeah, that's the big snub today, isn't it? Delroy
Yeah.
Lindo in The Five Bloods. He's yeah, his steam has been off and on, which surprises me because he definitely seemed like the front runner at the start of all of this, and I could see Tahar Rahim maybe slipping in there though after watching the trailer. It seems like he does a very good job making a very humanizing kind of a performance that some people may not necessarily want to see humanized. I would like to see it though. And again, Anthony Hopkins. It looks like this might be a very good uh, late in life performance for him.
Mhm.
Um, so
And like I said, it's an award-winning role already,
yeah,
which is interesting. I think is it the only nominee for an adaptation in this category? Oh
Ma,
no,
Ma
Ma
Rainey.
Rainey. Ma Rainey, yes.
yeah, Ma Rainey. It that's a very strong list of contenders there.
Mhm.
So it remains to be seen what would happen after. Let's go on to best performance lead actor comedy musical. We've got Sacha Baron Cohen for Borat subsequent movie film. You got James Corden for The Prom. You got Lin Manuel Miranda for Hamilton. You've got Dev Patel popping up with the only nomination for The Personal History of David Copperfield, and you've got Andy Samberg for Palm Springs. So four of those five films we also listed earlier for the Best Picture race. And man, is Sacha Baron Cohen going to get another one for playing Borat? What do y'all think?
I think he might. I think the competition would be from Dev Patel in this category. I think it is very interesting that it was the only nomination for Personal History of David Copperfield. Um, well, they tend to like the kind of more period pieces. So I think that might be I think that might be the biggest competition in the category.
Yeah,
I could I don't know, the Hamilton situation, to add another layer of just, interesting information. When it was up for its original Broadway run at the Tony Awards, Lin Manuel and Leslie Odom Jr. got nominated. Leslie Odom Jr. won. So
oh
the fact
wow,
that he was not nominated for Hamilton as a movie is really, really fascinating. But like you said earlier, in terms of Hamilton being included at all and people wanting to show it some love, I think there could be a world where, Lin Manuel is a contender, and again, just another trophy to put on his shelf for, how much people love and respect this thing that he created. So I
yeah,
think, but I do agree that right now I feel like Sacha Baron Cohen is the front runner, just because there's been just a sudden influx of love for Borat, which it'll be
mm.
interesting. You guys might know better than I do. Has anyone won twice for playing the same character?
I believe Sylvester Stallone. Maybe I believe he won the Golden Globe. I know for Creed. I don't know if he won for any of the Rocky films.
Let's see.
But I remember the standing ovation for Sylvester Stallone when he won, and I remember being shocked he didn't win the Oscar. A lot of the reason because of that.
Mhm.
That is a good question though. And another thing about the Lin Manuel Miranda performance, I think it's pretty cool to see a performance on stage being filmed as well, um, get nominated in this fashion. I think that
Mhm.
would be a very cool thing to see him win. Uh, I don't know that he necessarily will. Um, with this bunch, I would say he might be one of the front runners. To be honest, I do want to see the personal history of David Copperfield. Dev Patel always uh,
Mhm.
does a pretty good job with these kind of things, and I watched the trailer for that recently. It looks like he kind of holds the film together, and it's it's good to see him in a lead actor nomination. He's usually in the supporting categories. So
And with Lin Manuel, it's really interesting because I think for Hamilton, it's been like just really eye opening for a lot of people in terms of like, do we love Lin Manuel the person, or do we actually love his performance? Because I feel like there's been a lot of overlap, and I have nothing but respect for him. But there have been like better people to play that role, but there's, like you said, there's just a lot of love for him, and there is just like a really like certain like fascinating like novelty of
yeah.
seeing the person who wrote the thing star in the thing.
I do wonder that earlier Tonys win for Leslie Odom Jr. instead. I wonder if the voting committee for the Tonys kind of thought, well, he's gonna rack up all these other awards elsewhere for writing the thing, and it's definitely gonna win Best Play. I wonder if that kind of factored in at all in that race way back when. But yeah. I I'm trying to remember. Did Lin Manuel Miranda win a Globe for the song for Moana? How
I don't
far I'll
think so.
go?
I think that was the La La Land year, and I think they took the Globe as well.
That's right.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
City of Stars. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, and Andy Samberg popping up for Palm Springs. This could be another indication that Palm Springs is more of a contender than we know
Hmm.
for the Best Picture race. I don't know. It's a, so let's talk about James Corden in the prom. I gotta say, I'm usually how do I say this right? Like so James Corden can pop up in the darndest of places sometimes. Whether
Cats.
sometimes in my Ocean's 8. So in my own personal
Super
opinion,
intelligence.
yeah, nothing against. I'm gonna say nothing against the guy. He's doing his own thing. He's being successful. I'm love. It's lovely. I will say he did win me over a bit in the prom. I followed his story probably the best of what was going. His story kind of started taking the steering wheel a little bit, and I don't know how good that is as far as the storytelling, considering what the movie is truly about. But I think his story takes it has a place in telling the main story. I think we learn a little bit more about his character's drive, and how I mean his character has a maturing arc, and I think this is some of the best work I've seen James Corden do. Uh, I wouldn't say I'm entirely surprised that he got nominated here, but I could be in the minority here. I don't know. Taylor, what are your thoughts?
I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty shocked
Mhm.
that he got nominated. His performance has been I'm trying to think of like the right word. It's been like scrutinized a bit, which some things I agree with, some things I don't. I don't think he gives a bad performance at all. I was pleasantly surprised by how good he was. Um, but I just don't think you're going to get out of the controversy of having a a straight man portray
Mm-hmm.
a three-dimensional gay character when there are so many other people who could have done just as well or better and brought another air of authenticity to it. And
Yeah.
also to touch on your point of like the story kind of becoming his, it's all it's interesting to learn more about that character, but it's not the story. It should be
Right.
about Joe Ellen Pellman's Emma,
Mm-hmm.
and Barry is sort of meant to be a mirror of her experience and how um, acceptance for gay youth can go so many, different, so many different numbers of ways.
For sure.
So
Yeah, and
it's
that did occur to
really,
me that he is uh, playing someone who is homosexual. I didn't really know in his case if he was or not, but I hadn't really investigated on the matter. But
but yeah, that's been like one of the main controversies surrounding the film. The fact that it's directed by a gay man about LGBT youth and
mhm.
LGBT individuals, the fact that a choice would be made to cast him in the first place really is there in the problem.
Mhm.
I think for a lot of people, setting aside that his performance, like I said, he does a perfectly fine job. I have nothing against the work that he did, but just the fact that he was in it at all is like the bigger
Mm.
picture problem. So the fact that he got nominated for something that has been so divisive is just really very out of left field.
Jeff, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that might be another example of the Hollywood Foreign Press taking a stand and kind of maybe lending their seal of approval to something that has been controversial. I will say he was not my favorite part of the film. I actually enjoyed him more in Into the Woods. Um, uh, I think that it shows how much of a um, how much power that Ryan Murphy has with the Hollywood Foreign Press. Like I think there were some surprises today that were related to Ryan Murphy productions that may not have gotten on the list if they didn't have Ryan Murphy's name on them. Like I think the Globe have been a champion of his since the first season of American Horror Story. Like I think they kind of pick people that they want to support, and I think he has been a recipient of that support for many years. And I think the love for the prom is an extension of their love for Ryan Murphy.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I know we're not really going to touch on TV a lot, but Ratched, which was a Netflix series, something that was
That was Ryan Murphy. I could
for me. Ratched was very uneven. I enjoyed it for the most part, but it was definitely a letdown, and it was it did not get great reviews on the whole. So the fact that that got so much love, like Jeff said, and even Jim Parsons for Hollywood, which seems like forever ago. Yeah, they're definitely in the Ryan Murphy fan club.
Okay. And I will just throw a little bit more 2 cents in there as far as the James Corden performance. I didn't know he was that great an on-screen crier. That's what shocked me most about his performance, I would say, because I don't know, who do you think of when you think about who's great at crying on screen, just in general?
Viola Davis.
That's a good one. That's a good answer, Taylor.
I don't really rank people on their crying abilities.
Oh, okay.
But it is funny. It is because Chris, I think was it Madeline and I that saw Fences with you and Sue?
Yeah,
and it's just close-ups. And Viola Davis is not only one of the best criers, she is one of the best snotters.
Yep, same in Doubt. Like she got the nom for Doubt too.
It's just all up in here, and it's just sticky, and it's just she goes for it. You want to
grab a tissue and help her out,
right? Yeah.
So. She goes for it. So good for her.
Yeah, good answers. And on that pleasant note, let's go on to the supporting categories. Let's do best performance, best supporting actress. We've got Glenn Close in Hillbilly Elegy. We've got Olivia Colman in The Father. We've got Jodie Foster in The Mauritanian. Yay, I did it. We've got Amanda Seyfried in Mank. And we have Helena Zengel in News of the World. So let's see. Have I seen any of those? Yes, I've seen Amanda Seyfried in Mank. And I'd say she's probably the front runner right now. What do you all think?
She and Olivia Colman kind of been trading back and forth in this race. I have seen Hillbilly Elegy and News of the World as well. News of the World, Helena Zengel is battling a language barrier. So she has that, and it's almost a little bit of Miracle Worker in its tone, because she is very frustrated by that, and she definitely is almost like a feral child. So that's definitely an acting challenge, and does a fantastic job at such a young age. And having Tom Hanks as your scene partner, that ain't bad. So very interesting not to see him. The Globes usually have love for Tom Hanks. Hillbilly Elegy, I think it's interesting because the movie pretty much universally has been panned, but most people say the one redeeming thing is Glenn Close's portrayal in that film. I think before the movie was actually released, a lot of people thought, finally this was going to be her chance for the Oscar. So I think there's a lot of strong competition in this category, but I think, and very, very great to see Jodie Foster. She's another DeMille Award winner as well. Just to see her show up on this list. You have a lot of veterans, and then you have a relative newcomer with Amanda Seyfried. If you think I mean, she's been in for a while, but for awards consideration, this is very. I think it might be one of her first nominations, and then to have, you know, I think it's Helena Zingel's debut for her to be nominated. It's very interesting category, top to bottom.
This category does get a lot of debuts sometimes, doesn't it? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
know Mary J. Blige. We mentioned her earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Mm-hmm.
her on-screen debut, and yeah,
Mudbound,
but
yeah.
yeah, a host of others.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor, what are your thoughts on this category?
I agree that I believe Amanda Seyfried is one of the, if not the front runner right now. Like I said, I haven't seen Mank, but I've heard nothing but just universal praise for her in that movie. Like, it's like Jeff said, she's been in the industry for a really long time, and it's just she finally found, you know, the right pairing of like role, actress, director, and you know, she really got to shine. So I
Yeah,
think there will be a lot of like love and sentiment towards her, just because, like I said, she's been around for so long. But it is really interesting to see Glenn Close pop up.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
She was definitely the front runner early on, I would say, and then more movies came out, and
and her performance is it it there's always a cliche that like if you want to win an award, you go through some kind of transformation. You know, you make
yeah,
yourself quote unquote ugly, or you know, something completely different than what you are. And you know, they could really be wowed by Glenn Close's dedication, because she's all in, and
yeah.
she is for lack of a better term, balls to the wall, and she's just committed to the broad strokes and interesting choices that she's making.
Yeah, I haven't seen the film. I know Ron Howard directed it, and I know Amy Adams is in it. I guess some people might see her as another snub. What do you all think?
I don't think so. Like I mentioned, pretty much the one bright light that a lot of people are mentioning with Hillbilly Elegy is Glenn Close. I think it's another one too, because again, Amy Adams also has not won the Academy Award. And I think it was kind of the same narrative, because it's about drug addiction, and that's you make yourself ugly or you make yourself an addict. I guess there's just some of the kind of rules to winning an Oscar.
Yeah.
And I think as the film, more and more people started to see it, they started to realize maybe it wasn't quite the Oscar movie, the Oscar bait that they thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was like they took a cookbook and they found the recipe for Oscar bait and then didn't use it. They went and bought like the frozen meal version.
oh wow.
If that's a good
The microwave Oscar bait.
right.
That's
It's like the
well, that
Hello
might be more
Fresh
of a
one.
damning indictment than you realize. I don't know.
I mean, if you watch the trailer, you'd think it was like an SNL spoof.
Yeah.
But
They,
I
they got
have
some
heard,
Oscar bait helper.
yeah, it's some Oscar bait helper. No, but in terms of Amy Adams, I had heard her name like a couple times. I don't think she's necessarily awful in the movie, but I think Hillbilly Elegy. I mean, just to talk about it like as a film, like on the whole, I think it needed more focused direction. And I think Jeff, we talked about this. The script is not great, and I just feel like there is like very little nuance to the entire thing. It's very just kind of haphazard and kind of just thrown up there. And Amy Adams is great in some of it, and she just needed a director in other scenes.
And
She
kind of
didn't
like
have one.
our description of the prom and representation, I think a lot of people have taken issue at the representation of Appalachian people in the film. I think that was a big divisive thing with the original book. It was very divisive with how people from that part of the country are depicted in the book and then later in the film. I think that's one thing that's affected a lot of people's opinion of the film, is that question of representation and how accurate or how how just that representation is for the film.
Yeah, it definitely feels very two-dimensional.
Mm-hmm,
Feels very surface level, shallow, any other synonyms you can think of.
Oh yeah. Um, okay. Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and start with the supporting actor best performance nominees. You got Sacha Baron Cohen popping up again there for his portrayal of Abby Hoffman in The Trial of the Chicago Seven. You've got Daniel Kaluuya in Judas and the Black Messiah, which is a film I expected a little more attention for, but it did get a little bit more attention, I suppose. You got Jared Leto in The Little Things, the film's sole nomination, I believe. We've got Bill Murray in another film with the sole nomination here, On the Rocks. And we've got Leslie Odom Jr. in One Night in Miami. I think the ones that are the least surprising showing up here are Sacha Baron Cohen and Leslie Odom Jr. Just from reading the dirt sheets, as you say, you know. But I think if Sacha Baron Cohen's going to win one Golden Globe on this night, I'd say he's got a better chance here than he does for Borat, personally. What do you all think?
I think Leslie Odom Jr. is the front runner in this category. Um, Supporting actor this year, you have at least two like very dense male ensembles with Trial of the Chicago Seven and One Night in Miami. So just the fact that these five names made it here, a lot of people I think may have expected those films to have more than one nominee in this category.
Oh yeah.
Because like I said, it is they're both such very strong male dominated ensembles. Like they're several standouts. So the fact that they made it to the short list just speaks to the strength of their performances.
Yeah, a buddy of mine was telling me that the Trial of the Chicago Seven, there was talk that it might be the first film to get 3 nominations in one film for supporting actors since I want to say The Godfather Part 2, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, that was enough to make me go see the film go see it in my living room. But Taylor, thoughts?
Yeah, it's really interesting that for at least Trial of Chicago 7's like case that they really chose to push Sacha Baron Cohen and like double down on him because if we had a time machine to go back to October, people were talking about Frank Langella, like Frank Langella's a lock, and like Eddie Redmayne had some buzz, and Sacha Baron Cohen and Mark Rylance, there were just all these names being thrown around, and it seems like almost that there were just too many to pick from.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I had mixed thoughts on Trial of the Chicago Seven as a whole. Like I didn't like not like it. I thought it was like fine. But maybe it is another one of those things that warrants another viewing because it is very it's very dense.
Yeah, that's very much Sorkin. Like he's like Chris made a great point earlier about how you can tell he's a screenwriter first. So I think he was able to explore the script, a lot deeper. And I think that's why there are so many layers. And it is definitely worth a second viewing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where Sacha Baron Cohen shines, is because the first time through, one of the most memorable performances is his. Like he's definitely the big character. So that helps, I think, in this category that he was a standout. So many great performances. It's like, kind of like, when you leave the film, like what do you remember? So I think that's where he shines in this film, and I think that's why he's here.
Yeah, I think a lot of viewers can relate to Abby Hoffman in this film and his portrayal of Abby Hoffman because I mean you take a stuffy kind of scenario like a courtroom and then you throw such a contradiction of a character like Abby Hoffman into it. He provides a much needed balance for the rest of the story, in my opinion. And back to Frank Langella, he was a little over the top, in my opinion, on this.
Yeah, he was, for me, he was like the Glenn Close of Trial of the Chicago Seven. He was definitely committed to what he was doing, but it was somewhat like cartoon villainy.
I think that was my my review. I don't remember who I told about it. He felt like a Disney villain. Like he just felt like so one dimensional. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean he brings the much needed heat. Like you hate him, but
yeah,
he definitely does his job.
Yeah, he performs effectively.
Yeah, I did like Mark Rylance in the film. I was a little surprised not to see his name mentioned today. And you know, say what you will about Eddie Redmayne, he does a good performance as well in that. And
Mhm.
this just it's such a great film. On a second viewing, I urge everybody, if you've already seen it and you're like, it was all right, check it out again, because that's just what Aaron Sorkin's scripts do. They've got things you haven't noticed before, and this film has that. As far as let's see, I'm happy to see Bill Murray again,
Hmm.
and this On the Rocks is a Sofia Coppola film. Am I correct in
Yep.
saying that? Yeah,
With Rashida Jones as well. Mhm.
Hmm.
with
Apple
Rashida
TV
Jones.
Plus.
Oh,
Not a
okay.
sponsor.
Not a sponsor. Yeah. Yeah, I would like to check that film out. It looks quite interesting. And is it Marlon Wayans? It's also in that film. Is that it?
I'm not sure.
I
I don't
thought I
know.
saw
I
him in
know
that.
very little about it. I've heard mostly praise for Bill Murray in regards to that movie.
Yep, Marlon Wayans, third listed.
That's who I thought I saw.
Jenny
Very nice.
Slate as well. Strong.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to check it out.
Yeah. I do have a friend that saw The Little Things over the weekend, and we were both gonna see it. Something came up, and I wasn't able to see it for whatever reason. But I asked how he felt about it, and he was actually a little disappointed. From what I understand, the film has a little bit of a anticlimactic kind of an ending,
Hmm.
so that might have something to do with it. Uh,
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
I've heard.
very surprised to see Jared Leto. Number one, because it was a late release and it had like little to no, like the big buzz was the fact that the three Oscar winners were in it.
Yeah.
Leto, Rami
Rami
Malek,
Malek,
and
yeah.
Denzel Washington. That was kind of like the big draw, and I think a lot of people have been disappointed by it. So it's very interesting to see um, Jared Leto's name there.
Yeah, out of anybody they could have nominated for it to be Jared Leto is interesting. I haven't seen the movie. Maybe his character is the more showy
Yeah,
role.
he plays the villain
Yeah.
from what I see. So maybe that was, and it's like a serial killer arc.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
from what I understand,
the film looks a little like the film Prisoners to me. To be honest, I don't know if anybody's seen that with Hugh Jackman and oh gosh, who else is in that film? uh, yeah, it anyway.
I've heard a lot of comparisons to Seven as well. Like it's
Okay.
Seven Light.
Seven Light.
7 Up,
Seven
Seven
Up.
Up.
That's a documentary.
not a sponsor.
But I
Not a
will
sponsor.
say I agree with Jeff that I feel like Leslie Odom Jr. has got the most behind him right now in terms of fuel to like cross the finish line. But I've also heard wonderful things about Daniel Kaluuya
Yeah,
in Judas and the
I've been
Black Messiah,
seeing,
which
hearing murmurs. Yeah.
apparently that film takes place at the same time and place as Trial of the Chicago 7.
Oh wow.
So those are supposedly supposed to be like good companion pieces. So it's interesting to see them both show up here.
I'm definitely gonna go try to find access to that film. I also love Lakeith Stanfield as an actor, so
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. I've got one more flashcard. It doesn't necessarily mean we're done with the awards, but here's a best screenplay. We've got The Father, we've got Mank, you've got Nomadland, you've got Promising Young Woman, and you've got Trial of the Chicago 7. Quite a few of those are also the filmmakers. Florian Zeller directed The Father, um, and yeah, David Fincher, not Jack
Yep,
Fincher,
Jack
directed
Fincher's
Mank.
the brother. Yeah.
And then you've got the other filmmakers there, Chloe Zhao and Emerald Fennell and Aaron Sorkin. Is this Sorkin's to lose?
I think just based on history, it is. But I think, I would be very pleased if any of them won. I think they're all very strong. I think this might be the most competitive category for me. I think they're all extremely well crafted films. And you notice a lot of these have had a lot of acting nominations. So I think the acting comes from the script. You look to the script first. So this is a very interesting category. And like I said, I would be happy with any one of these nominees because
Yeah.
of course I haven't seen The Father and Nomadland, but just the fact that, just watching the trailers, just getting a taste of both of those films, you can already see like how well crafted they are. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does the Globes, they don't separate between original screenplay and adapted, do they?
Correct.
That was a point I was just about to bring up. So this might actually mean that all 5 of these films could be locks for the upcoming Oscar categories, since they do split it up: best original screenplay and best adapted screenplay. It's not always the case, but it's fairly it's very likely that all 5 of these films will be nominated come Oscar
But
season.
in terms of the Globes, I would say probably The Father has the biggest uphill battle, just because it is an adaptation and it's not original. It could be a really great adaptation, but
Is it? Yeah, I'm looking over here. I suppose that is the only
I think it is the only
adaptation.
adaptation. Yep.
So I would say it's already a front runner for best adapted screenplay then. So it's now I'm kind of wondering if these are the 4 that are going to go on to get best original screenplay nominations. What'll be the 5th one?
And if you think, talking about adapted, the 2 based on plays that aren't in this category, for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and for One Night in Miami, I know that I believe the playwright for One Night in Miami also did the adaptation, and someone who worked very closely with August Wilson did the adaptation for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. So those could be 2 of your adapted nominees.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what the 5th original could be if these are, in fact, upcoming Oscar nominees. I have no idea. I guess, but it's fun to speculate, isn't it? I'm gonna pull up a list here. We'll just quickly run through the other nominees. Let's go to best animated feature. So I know you've got Soul in there. You've got Wolf Walkers. You've got Onward.
The
Um,
Croods.
you've got the Crude sequel. What's it called? The Crude's A New Age. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've got Over the Moon. Taylor, you've seen Over the Moon, right?
I have.
I have not.
Over the Moon is great. It's a lot of fun, and it almost, because it's from I forget his name, but he's from like a legendary Disney animator, teamed up with Netflix and an outside company to do it. And yeah, it feels like a Disney musical, which is interesting, and there's a lot of really great talent in that movie, and it's a fun, interesting story, and I think it does a lot for positive representation of Western culture.
Yeah. Is it? I've got the directors of it here: Glenn Keane or John Cars. Is it one of those 2 for the?
Maybe
animators?
Glenn Keane. It was,
Okay.
or I don't know if it was the director or the animator. It may have been the director, but he's just got like insane Disney pedigree. Like worked on like Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, and resume as long as my arm. But yeah, I very much enjoyed Over the Moon.
I've only seen Soul, and I imagine it's the front runner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think right now I've heard that like Soul's biggest competition is Wolf Walkers, which I haven't seen yet. Another Apple TV Plus, when Apple TV Plus is starting to get
That
on the
has
map.
gotten a lot
Not
a lot of buzz for Wolf Walkers. I will say I have not seen Over the Moon, but it's definitely one that I want to check out. I've only seen Onward and Soul, and I would agree that I think Soul is the front runner right now.
I mean, Soul is getting
Yeah.
Best Picture buzz right now. So, I mean, if and that might be the 5th original screenplay nominee too. I mean, that sometimes the Pixar films sneak into there.
Yep. While we're revisiting screenplay, I did a little research, and Nomadland is actually adapted as well. So,
okay.
2 adapted in there and 3 original. So, News of the World, perhaps with best original, is kind of being buzzed about. Minari, which we haven't seen much from. It was only in the foreign language film, which you may see later, is also kind of getting buzz for Best Original as well.
Yeah, and Minari was not eligible for some of these Golden Globe categories.
Correct. Yeah, it's like Roma, kind of in the same boat that Roma was a couple years ago.
I've heard Minari's whole situation is, I've heard, very sticky and controversial in terms of where the Globes decided to put it, but
and it is also from South Korea, if I'm not mistaken, just like Parasite was, right?
But I
no,
thought it was
American.
American.
Yeah, it's about a Korean family that moves to Arkansas to work, but it has. I think it might be in Korean, which is maybe why they made the distinction. It's not like the Oscars where it has to be from a certain country. It's just it was in, a foreign language, so it was in the foreign language category.
Okay, but speaking of the foreign language category, best motion picture foreign language, you've got your films here. Another Round, La Llorona, The Life Ahead, Minari, and Two of Us. I've seen a lot of stuff for Another Round and Minari, mostly Minari, and I haven't seen any of the nominees.
I have not either, but Minari, like you mentioned, with Soul is getting best picture buzz. The standout for Another Round is Mad Mixon.
Yeah,
Mad Mickelson.
Mickelson, thank you. Couldn't remember how many syllables. But
best Bond villains, yeah.
But it's another of that kind of alcoholic arc that you talked about earlier. Plays a teacher just on a perpetual bender. So and that's also getting a lot of strong Oscar buzz as well.
Yeah, it seems like a running theme this season is alcoholism. You've got Another Round, you've got On the Rocks, you've got Mank. It's
Hillbilly Elegy, not alcoholism, but addiction.
Right.
Okay, yeah. So it's interesting, all these titles going along with that. So let's go on. Oh, Taylor, did you have anything to add to the foreign language film discussion?
No, I think it's definitely going to be between Minari and On the Rocks. You just said On the Rocks. Minari and Another Round, the other alcoholic movie.
I will say I've seen The Life Ahead, and Sophia Loren, she was getting some lead actress buzz for that film. Very well done film as well. Don't think it will play, but just wanted to mention that it is fantastically crafted movie.
So you did see it, you said? Okay.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of the reason for its inclusion in this category is because of her and her performance.
That's awesome. Okay, so we've got two more categories here. Best Original Score. You've got some double nominees here. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Alone, those two are nominated for Mank. And then when you throw in John Batiste with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, you've got a nominee with Soul. And then the other nominees, we have The Midnight Sky by Alexandra Desplat. I'm going to butcher this name. How do we say it? Do we know?
It's Desplat.
Desplat. Oh, I nailed it. Nice.
Yeah, that's another one that Sarah Jessica Parker taught me how to say this morning.
Yay. Thanks, SJP. We've got News of the World. News of the World with James Newton Howard, and Tenet, the film's sole nomination, Ludwig Göransson.
Göransson.
Ludwig Göransson. There. Editing. So I've seen Mank, I've seen Soul, I've seen Tenet.
I've seen all five of these.
You've seen all five of these. So you probably have a pretty good opinion on this category.
Yeah, I will say I think they definitely nailed it for the score nominations. Each one of these definitely created the best impressions with the score. I think definitely all the films are scored very well. I'm really glad to see Midnight Sky in this conversation. Midnight Sky directed by George Clooney. Has been some talk in some of the technical categories for the Oscars. So I'm really glad to see it included here. It is a very well-made film, and very interesting to see Tenet on the list as well. I think Tenet was another one of those that had a lot of buzz early on, but has not really capitalized on that. But I am glad to see the score being recognized, because that is
Yeah, the
one
music
of the
stayed with me,
standout
I'll say. Yeah.
parts of the film. I think I have to go with Soul. I think not only with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, but with the work that John Batiste did with the orchestrations and with the jazz segments, to make them as authentic as possible. I think that really showed, and I think that's what will ring truest among these five.
Taylor, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Soul, just so much of like the movie's DNA is rooted in a character's love for music and a love for jazz, and the score along with the jazz compositions are just so rich and rooted in that culture that it's probably close to like, a perfect score for a movie. So yeah, I think Soul is the front runner, and I would be surprised if it didn't win the Globes and everything up to and through the Oscars.
Yeah, I think all three of us are in agreement here. John Batiste, you can definitely feel his element in the, the whole movie. And the film is about a music teacher, so it feels like the clear front runner.
And
Um,
Pixar has a good history in this category as well.
that's true. Yeah, it's all about Pixar's super heavy about creating their worlds, and uh, anybody who's watched some old Looney Tunes will tell you that music plays a key part in that, and they understand that. And Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, they've won before in this category, The Social Network. They're usually paired with David Fincher, no exception here with Mank. I was surprised to learn it was them, honestly, for Mank. Listening to the
Mm-hmm.
score, I'm not sensing a lot of the usual Trent Reznor kind of elements. They're probably still there. They're just very well hidden. I would say Soul's going to win that. So yeah, we'll just say that we'll pretend to be surprised when they call that name. And it could, I don't know, maybe it'll go to Tenet. Who knows? The best original song. So we've got "Fight for You" from Judas and the Black Messiah. We've got, I'm going to try to pronounce this right, Is See or Scene from The Life Ahead. Did I do? Go ahead, Jeff.
It's it's a Y. It's Yossi.
Yossi.
Yossi. Mm-hmm.
Yossi. Okay. Okay. We also have Speak Now for One Night in Miami. We've got Hear My Voice for The Trial of the Chicago Seven. And we've got Tigress and Tweed from the United States versus Billie Holiday. As Jeff mentioned, that is also Andra Day in that
Mm-hmm.
nomination.
And we have Leslie Odom Jr. with Speak Now. So this year,
Okay.
there's two double acting and songwriting nominees.
Excellent. Excellent. I do not remember the song from the Trial of the Chicago Seven.
I don't either. That's actually was one of my thoughts when I saw that nomination.
Did it play over the credits? Maybe.
I think
I
it
think
may
it
have. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
I will say a couple noticeable snubs for me are The Prom, Wear Your Crown, which admittedly is not a great song. It's catchy, but it's not a great song. But it's one of the only musicals this year, so the fact that it missed out on that, as well as Over the Moon, the song Rocket to the Moon was really like poised to rake up some music nominations throughout award season, and it's not off to a really great start. I do think it's a good song though, but yeah, just really surprising to not see those two, but especially Rocket to the Moon.
And it might be a little bit telling also that we're not seeing Sia in this category, despite the movie Music, uh, the movie that is called Music, getting
Not
a
get any
few
music nominations.
right. Not exactly. So I don't know. There might be something to be said there. I still need to hear all of these songs before I can really fill in on my take on it.
It's great to
But
see Diane Warren yet again. Another one we've mentioned. Glenn Close and Amy Adams. Another one multi-nominee, never winner for the Academy Awards.
Mm.
which one? I'm sorry, Diane Warren.
Diane Warren with Yossi.
Oh, okay,
Hmm.
gotcha. All right, and really the only other thing I could bring up is that the Cecil B. DeMille Award is going to go to Jane Fonda.
Hmm.
She
I hope she doesn't make a controversial speech.
Jane
man.
Fonda, controversial?
I mean, I don't know. She usually shies
That-
away from controversy.
I hope she doesn't get
that wallflower, Jane Fonda.
I just hope she doesn't get arrested in the middle of it.
They have to handcuff her, take her from the stage.
I kind of hope she does.
Oh my.
I mean, if ever an awards season year needed Jane Fonda to make a speech, I think this one's it.
And on that
Yeah.
bombshell. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Taylor.
Oh, I was gonna say, do we know right now, are the awards gonna be held in person?
From what I understand, they're going to be it's a bit of a simulcast. So Tina Fey and Amy Poehler will be hosting. From what I understand, Tina Fey will be in New York, and Amy Poehler will be in Los Angeles. I want to say. So I'm very interested to see what kind of plans they have for this.
But yeah, because my even split up, I don't know, especially the pandemic situation in LA right now is reaching horrible heights. So
right.
I don't know. That's why I was like, is it
The
happening?
awards. Yeah, the awards are happening this month.
Yeah.
It's one
The
of these rare
28th,
times
right?
where we,
Hmm.
yeah, the very last day of the month, this year, and um, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what's going to happen here for a lot of good reasons. Maybe they'll do something a little similar to what the Emmys did, where people may be hosting their own shindigs at their own places. I don't know how many of these will take place in Canada, like the popular show of the Emmys. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
speaking of a little more like television thing to throw into the discussion, yay for You Know What's Creek.
Shirts Creek, Shirts Creek,
Shirts Creek, yeah.
yeah. Got those nominations again, didn't they? And then
5.
Wow.
Which I don't know, the Emmys were like the main thing, and I feel like them getting Globe nominations and honestly probably some wins is just, it's just icing for them.
A show that I've recently got into lately is Ozark, and I'm pretty happy to see love for Jason Bateman and Laura Linney and Julia Garner for that show, and it's
Yeah.
up for best series as well.
The end of season 3 was mind blowing.
Yeah, hey, I see what you did there.
And Janet McTeer, speaking of mind blowing, she's so good in that show.
Yeah, I do like some Janet McTeer. She's amazing, and when I saw that she was in this show, I was like, oh, nice. Let's see where this goes. So, so the next season will be the last season, I guess, for that show, right?
I need
Yeah.
to. I need to watch. That's on my list, my ever-growing list of things to watch. One thing I want to, a fact that I want to put out there. We've kind of been throwing around a number for the members of the Hollywood Foreign Press. There are only 93 members of the Hollywood Foreign Press,
Wow.
so we're actually inflating that by a little bit. And I mentioned earlier, News of the World for original screenplay. It's actually adapted as well. So I wanted to clear those up.
Yeah, I wanted to say that was an adapted one.
Yeah, those things would make me lose sleep if I didn't correct them. So there you go.
Well,
So going back to that category really quick, now that we have a new knowledge, do you guys feel that there is going to be, any preference between original and adapted for a category where they're both lumped together? Because in that case, Emerald Fennell could be feeling pretty good about herself right now.
yeah, quite possibly. I don't really know the statistics on this. I tend to feel like adapted gets it more than original at the Globes, but I could be wrong on that. Just thinking back to past winners, yeah. I mean, sometimes they do honor an original screenplay. Like I know they've given Quentin Tarantino a few um, in this category, but I imagine it does kind of feel right now that Nomadland is the favorite, and in the best picture race, just all in general best picture race. So sometimes screenplay and picture, a lot of the time actually, they go hand in hand. So my prediction in that race right now would be Nomadland, but I don't know. And that we established that is an adapted screenplay, right?
Yes, Nomadland is adapted. Looking back over past winners, it's kind of split either way. Not really seeing a strong trend one way or the other for
Interesting.
original versus adapted. So
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, folks. I know it's been a whole lot longer than we were probably anticipating it being, but I
we may
might
have to break it
squeeze.
up by race,
I
by
might, yeah,
category.
might have to break it up, but
Mhm.
well, I maybe just like split it in half. I don't know that I want to
We'll
do
see. We'll
that
see what
much
happens.
breaking up. I don't know. We'll see.
Because breaking up is hard to do.
It's
Oh,
it
I was
is.
gonna say that.
I'm ending it on that. Thank you all so much for joining in on this impromptu discussion, and we'll probably have another one in the future. We've got a lot more pre-Oscar buzz. We've got the Oscar nominations themselves coming up, so we'll see. Until then, see ya. Here's the drum beat again. Error, error.